Hello and welcome to Time to Talk Straight. I am Amjad Ayub Mirza. British new Foreign Secretary David Lammy has dashed to Poland. And it's wrong direction, mate. You've flown in the wrong direction. You're still following the old conventional norms of foreign policy. There is no innovation. There is no forward thinking. This is not going to work. I tell you why. Now, the Foreign Secretary's visit is set to strengthen ties with the European Union, and this shows that British Labour Party's vision is still Eurocentric. BBC News has interestingly reported that the new UK government wants to signal its desire to engage in the face of multiple world crises. Excuse me, what about the crisis at home? Dashing down to Warsaw is not going to help the British voter, the British public, with anything. Poland cannot bring in investment. We cannot set up our factories in Poland and use their labor to produce cost-effective commodities for the international market. So what is the purpose of going to Poland? The only purpose I see is to help the arm manufacturers continue with this war by extending unnecessary support to Ukraine and others are supporting Russians. It's all about arms sales. So it has nothing to do with peace, it has nothing to do with development, and everything to do with profiteering from war. So what about the crisis we face at home, the crisis of a broken NHS, the crisis of a divided social fabric, the threat, emerging, I would say, threat of Islamism. I'm not saying Muslims are fine. I'm saying that small tiny group that influences the mindset of the Muslims, those Islamic radical elements in British society that hate our way of life and want to impose an alien way of life in the name of Sharia. David Lammy should have dashed to India. India is the market. India has got cheap labor. India has got traditional ties with Great Britain. Remember, in my previous videos, I've been mentioning Commonwealth. We should be Commonwealth centric, not Eurocentric. And I tell you what, since Brexit, I've traveled across Europe, many countries. They don't want us back. They don't want us back. Look what has happened in the French elections in France. It's a broken country. Look at Germany. Another broken country. You are living in cuckoo's land, Mr. David Lammy. Your foreign policy is actually a reflection of the domestic policy. And the domestic policy is a so-called political correct policy, the policy of appeasement. This is not going to be a firm government. Just yesterday, Yvette Cooper has said that she is going to send boats in the channel to stop these immigrants crossing the channel into Britain. That's not how you're going to stop it. You need to be firm with the French government, and you have to ask the French to stop sending these boats, or else we are going to fine the French government for these boats that cross into our part of the channel. Again, I might sound naive here, but the fact of the matter is nothing is going to change. Things are going to get worse. For instance, David Lammy's position on the war in the Middle East between Hamas and Israel. What does he say? He says that he wants to seek a balanced position. What is a balanced position? You can't have a balanced position here. You have to stand firm. You have to stand by Israel. You can't, have best of the both worlds. Hamas is a terrorist organization funded by Iran. and so is Hezbollah of Lebanon. So, how are you going to balance this? Don't juggle in international politics. Take a position. That is the problem with British politics. Nobody is willing to take a position. Everybody wants to follow the line of political correctness. Goody goody here, goody goody here. It's not going to work. The Labour government and the foreign minister must announce its unequivocal support for Israel and total condemnation of the terrorist organization Hamas. But as I said earlier in this video, foreign policy is the reflection of domestic policy. 6 new MPs, originally like background, Pakistani background, Muslim background, have been elected from Midlands and North England into the British Parliament. Our streets have been taken over not by democratic protesters or peace lovers or pacifists, but in the guise of peace, in the guise of pacifism, it has been taken over by radical Islamists. And you should recognize that at home, and that is the job of the Home Minister as well. And if you do not recognize that, and the Prime Minister from the floor of the Parliament does not acknowledge and say that Britain is not going to compromise on jihadism, on Sharia, you are going to go into the same ditch in which the Tories fell. And you will. I am 100% sure that you will, because you do not have a clarity of mind. You are just doing this media circus. For instance, the Prime Minister is visiting Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales. I mean, you've just won the election and you haven't even settled in the Prime Minister house. So what is the purpose of you visiting Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland? The first thing you should do, if you really care, is to send the Secretary of Ireland, the Secretary of Scotland, and the Secretary of Wales to these respective parts of the Union and ask them to compile a report and prepare a briefing. And then when they come back, one at a time, you invite them, you listen to them, they give you a clear picture, what is going on, what is required, what policy amendments have or have not to be made, what problems does each of the union face, and then visit. But no. You have to show off. Mr. David Lammy, your party, the Labour Party of Lord Attlee in 1947, was responsible for the creation of not only 2 countries in the Indian subcontinent vis-a-vis Pakistan and India, but also the Kashmir issue. The army chiefs of both India and Pakistan at the time in 1947 were British generals, and they were directly under the command of the British CNC. And what happened? There was a war immediately after partition between India and Pakistan over the territory of Kashmir. And that conflict led to 4 wars. It was the Labour government. The Indian Office Library and the British Library is full of documentary evidence that proves that the Labour government of that time was directly involved in the creation of this dispute. So David Lammy should have flown to India not only for business purposes but also to discuss peace in that region. Again, it's Commonwealth that we should be concerned about. Peace in the Commonwealth. Mend the relations between India and Pakistan. Solve the Kashmir issue. Bring everybody on the table. Take the lead. Britain is not taking lead in foreign diplomacy. It's the Americans and the Chinese. Okay, and the Russians. But not us. We need to be firm. And I tell you this. If there is a government in Britain that is proper nationalist government that looks after the interests of the nation, no matter what, the whole of Britain will stand by you or by that government, whoever it be. Most hopefully, it will be the Reform UK government after this government is kicked out. It's sad to see Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, taking pride for the wrong reasons. The Prime Minister takes pride for trying to be politically correct in an orthodox, obsolete way. He's taking pride in the high number of state-educated and female cabinet ministers. It's not about political correctness. It's not how many state-educated cabinet ministers do you have or how many female cabinet ministers you have. It's about whether or not they can deliver. You need experts, technical people, specialists. You should be focusing on that. But you have got this old dinosauric mentality of the Cold War years. And that is reflected in every speech you make. Keir Starmer said, even if you haven't voted for Labour, my government will serve you. What do you mean by that, Mr. Starmer? That is bloody well the job of the duty of a government to serve everyone. You are not doing us a favor. And finally, Scotland, John Sweeney, who became the leader of SNP and the first minister after Hamza Yusuf. He said SNP needs soul searching as Labour win big in Scotland. Soul searching, you don't even have a bloody soul. You don't have a soul. It's just an echo of a hollow past. That's it. Scotland is over and done with sectarian politics. You called it independence movement. It was a sectarian movement based on hate of the other. It won't work. Today's world is coming together as a community. You can't survive unless you have a proper position inside your own boundaries, like borders, as well as with your neighbors. And the neighbors don't have to be the next door neighbor. The neighbor is those who share your ideas. Those are your neighbors. Many things need to be redefined. The damage that SNP has done to Scotland and UK can only be repaired if we start from a clean slate. So here is what I say. Wipe out, wipe out, wipe out. SNP out, Labour out, Tories out. Wipe out, wipe out, wipe out. SNP out, Labour out, Tories out. Thank you for watching. Time to talk straight. Till we meet again in our next video. God bless you all and God save the King.